Anger, it's a paralyzing emotion. You can't get anything done. People sort of think it's an interesting, passionate, or igniting feeling. I don't think it is any of that. It's helplessness. It's absence of control, and I need all of my skills, all of my control, and all of my powers. And anger doesn't provide any of that. I have no use for it whatsoever. These words, written by novelist Toni Morrison, capture the effects of anger. Chronic anger can be debilitating and paralyzing. Some feel trapped in its grip and struggle to rid it of their lives. Uncontrolled anger can cause relationship problems, work problems, and sometimes health-related problems. This SubstanceEducation.com course defines and explores ways to deal with anger. There is hope. You can control the anger inside you. If you have not already done so, please print and complete the Life Stress Questionnaire handout located on our website. After completing it, add up the total points and write this number at the bottom of the page. So let's begin by talking about the purposes of this presentation. During this presentation, we will differentiate between healthy and unhealthy anger, learn how your thinking can be used to deal with your anger, understand how stress reduction can reduce your anger, identify the triggers that make you angry, and at the end of this course, you will be instructed to complete the Controlling the Anger Inside of You self-help handout. This will be your first step to understanding how to take action, like creating an anger management plan. So let's get started. Let's begin by taking a brief quiz. Which of these statements do you believe is true or false? Anger is inherited. False. Research shows that anger is a learned response. In other words, people are not born with specific ways of showing or expressing anger. The environment, such as our past experiences with family and peers, probably has something to do with how we learn to express our anger. Because anger responses are learned, they can also be unlearned. Venting anger is always desirable. False. A popular misconception is that yelling or hitting a punching bag is always healthy. Research shows that this is simply not the case. Those who express their anger in an aggressive manner seem to get better at being angry. Aggressive expression of anger simply increases the likelihood that it will be used in the future. Anger is a normal emotion. True. People experience a wide range of emotional responses that can be healthy. Knowing when your anger is unhealthy is the key to changing it. Anger is normal, just like any other emotion. Emotions are probably best thought of as fleeting. For example, you will have moments in your life when you are happy, but you don't actually feel happy every waking moment of your life. Anger, like happiness, is a normal emotion sprinkled in small doses throughout your life. Extended periods of anger is unhealthy, and, not surprisingly, research confirms that anger is associated with alcohol and drug relapse. What happens when people experience an anger response? There are bodily changes such as increased heart rate, increased blood pressure, and chemicals such as adrenaline and noradrenaline reach throughout the body. Muscle tension, teeth grinding, and fist clenching may also occur. People generally express anger in two ways. They communicate to other people that they are angry, or they withdraw from others and choose not to outwardly express the emotion. Let's take a look at both of these. Communicating to others that you are upset about something is a healthy response if carried out in an assertive manner. Being assertive means that you are expressing your point of view while at the same time respecting what others say. It also means that you are acknowledging that the other person's point of view is important while you remain calm. This is carried out by not belittling or humiliating others involved. On the other hand, communicating to others can be carried out in ways that can be aggressive. Aggression involves devaluing, belittling, and not being open to others' ideas. Aggressive responses are hurtful to others and typically do little to solve problems between people. People who withdraw from anger show no outward sign of it. They step away from conflict by simply looking the other way, not speaking, and sometimes feeling bad about themselves by not standing up for their rights. People often become irritable and angry. Sometimes this anger is directed towards safe family members and friends who are not involved in the original anger episode. Withdrawing from anger or any emotion has consequences. For example, you could develop emotional problems such as depression, anxiety, or substance abuse issues, or even physical problems like high blood pressure. How do you know if anger is a problem? Well, anger is a problem if it happens frequently, becomes intense, affects your relationships, affects your physical or mental health, and if the inner voice inside you is telling you you need to change. Anger is a normal reaction. Under certain circumstances, it is healthy and communicates to others your needs. With that said, it should be expressed like other emotions, occasionally and with short periods of time. Increased frequency of emotions could mean that you are not handling your stressors. If you believe you are angry more often or are getting this feedback from family and friends, then anger could be a problem. How long you hang on to anger and the intensity in which you experience it is important to notice. The more intensely you feel anger, the more likely you will be to experience the negative effects of it. For example, you will be more likely to verbally or physically strike out at others. The goal of any anger management plan is to prevent feeling anger at an intense level. This will prevent you from reaching an explosive stage before you lose control of it. Uncontrolled anger can have severe consequences that includes problems relating to people. Arguing with others, even those who are not directly involved in the anger episode, may begin to develop. Arguing can escalate and become physical. Hitting, punching, or destroying others' property becomes more likely. Relationships with loved ones, friends, and colleagues begin to suffer. Spouses, children, and other family members may notice increased irritability in the angry individual. Loved ones want to know how to help the angry person, but are afraid and confused. Problems with colleagues at work can be present, and at its worst, the person may be fired. Physical problems such as high blood pressure, muscle tension, and increased heart rate may develop as a consequence of chronic anger. More severe medical issues, such as heart problems, may also develop. Oftentimes, people know they need to change. They look around and see the consequences of their actions, such as using drugs and alcohol to cope or change and damage relationships. Sometimes it is a matter of feeling stuck. Their inner voice tells them that they need to change, but they are not exactly sure how to do that. Maybe now is the time to acknowledge that inner voice. Listen to what you are telling yourself. The good news is you can control your anger with the right tools and resources. It is a matter of making the effort and practicing new behaviors. So, how do you control your anger? This course will discuss 4 approaches to dealing with anger. This includes recognizing what you think when you are becoming angry, managing stress, knowing the triggers that set off your anger, and creating a plan of action to control your anger. After you finish this audio presentation, you will have the opportunity to create an anger management plan that uses these approaches to help change how you approach angry situations. The first approach to dealing with anger is thinking differently about situations. Everyone has inner conversations with themselves. We are always thinking and interpreting things that are going on in our environment. Self-talk is the name of this inner dialogue. And this is something that we experience throughout the day. Automatic thoughts are what we think immediately following a situation. Automatic thoughts can take on several forms. They can be mental pictures or things we visualize in our heads, words or broken thoughts, or a combination of the two. Here's an example. After rushing around all morning, you are finally in your car and on your way to work. While driving to work, you manage to hit all the stoplights. You say to yourself, "I'm going to be late to the meeting." Or you may picture a room with your coworkers who are waiting for you to arrive at work. So what causes anger? Is it really the situation that happens to us? The diagram on this page shows how thoughts play a vital role in how you react to situations. So, starting from the top, you will see that a situation happens to us. We then think about it, and because of this, we experience certain feelings, like happy, sad, or frustrated. Then we have behaviors like yelling at someone, walking away, or punching a hole in the wall, as well as bodily reactions such as an upset stomach or sweaty hands. Oftentimes, people believe that our emotions, like anger, come first. In reality, we have a thought that comes before anger. Our thoughts are the guiding force behind our emotions and our behaviors. Let's take a look at how this works using an example of a situation that makes someone angry. So it goes like this. The situation is, your boss criticizes your work project that you have worked very hard on, and up until the moment your boss criticizes you, you felt very proud of. After this, you think, "I can never get things right," or "she hates me," or "she always does this to me. I can never please her." You then become angry, feel disappointed, begin to argue with your boss, and feel your heart pounding. Or it could go, if you thought differently about the situation, then you would also feel and behave differently. Here's the same situation, but with different thoughts. So your boss criticizes your work. You think, "It would be nice if she liked my work," or "I'm not perfect, and I need to figure this out." You then feel calmer, confident, and assertively ask your boss questions so that you understand what needs to be different. Our thinking is often incorrect. The problem is that people tend to believe their thoughts without ever really questioning them. Sometimes it takes slowing your thoughts down and critically looking at what you are saying to yourself to see if what you say is really accurate. Someone once said, "If you spoke to others like you speak to yourself, you probably wouldn't have many friends." The point being, these inaccurate thoughts are frequently about ourselves and do nothing more than to erode our self-esteem. You don't have to believe them, and they can be changed. Our thinking can be wrong. Just because we perceive something in a certain way doesn't make it the only way to see it. A type of counseling called cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT, teaches that there are several common unrealistic ways of thinking. A few of these are catastrophizing, which means making a mountain out of a molehill. Should, ought, and must statements, where we use these words to motivate us to change and have the effect of making us feel guilty if we don't change. All or nothing thinking, which involves seeing the world in black and white ways, with no shades of gray. And overgeneralizing, which is erroneously applying certain criteria to every situation. In the handout provided in this course, we will discuss these errors and ways to change them. Identifying your self-talk is the key to changing how you think about situations and changing your anger. One way to do this is to complete a thought log. An example of a thought log is included in the handouts for this course. Whenever you experience an angry situation, complete the thought log so that you can identify unrealistic patterns of thinking. Also, the thought log will show you that it isn't the situation that makes you angry. It's how you interpret it and how you think about it. You can also identify unrealistic patterns of thinking by talking to trusted friends and family members about the situations that make you angry. Sometimes these people are removed enough from the situation and are able to help you see that in a slightly different perspective. Does thinking realistically mean the same thing as thinking positively? The answer to this question is no. It does mean, however, that sometimes we are wrong about how we think about and interpret situations that happen to us. Finding unrealistic thoughts and challenging them and then eventually changing them will help us take care of ourselves. The second approach to dealing with anger is controlling your stress. Stress is the physical, emotional, and psychological response to any demand. It is essentially our body's reaction to a perceived challenge. Eustress is called good stress. Good stress is a type of stress that motivates us. It propels us forward in life and in some cases helps us reach our goals. Examples of eustress might be getting into a college, obtaining a new job, or having a first child. Even though it affects us positively, it is, nonetheless, stressful. If not managed, eustress can turn into the second type of stress, which is distress. Distress is the negative type of stress. It includes the death of a loved one, loss of a job, financial problems, or relationship problems. Distress, if not managed appropriately, can lead to physical problems such as fatigue, high blood pressure, anxiety, and depression. Stress is additive. The more stress you have over a short amount of time, the more severe you experience its side effects. Because of the toll it can have on you mentally and physically, it is important to understand stress and how to take care of yourself when you experience it. So, where does stress come from? In general, we experience stress through three broad sources: our surroundings, interpersonal conflicts, and bodily demands. So let's take a look at each of these sources. It's difficult to escape the stress that is in our surroundings. We live in a world that is polluted with chemicals, noise, and traffic. In addition to this, sometimes climate, like the threat of tornadoes, blizzards, or drought, bring financial and personal stress. Interpersonal conflict is also part of our day-to-day stress. People experience disagreement with significant others, children, and parents. Communication can be challenging for people who experience a lot of anger. Mental health professionals often say that people who are angry have a low frustration tolerance, meaning they think they should not be subjected to annoyances that happen to them. Those with low frustration particularly have problems when situations seem unfair. For example, having a boss correct them if they've made a mistake. Other sources of interpersonal conflict may arise from jobs or school stress, from getting a divorce, or living alone with a lack of social interaction. Our body is also a source of stress. Being sick, eating a poor diet, and lack of sleep can also have an influence on the level of stress we experience throughout the day. There are many warning signs that tell us we are experiencing too much stress. This may include problems with sleeping. Sometimes people lay in bed turning over the same thoughts in their heads and are unable to get to sleep. On the other hand, other people report that they sleep too much as a way of escaping the world. Physically, we may experience muscle soreness or tension. This may include tension in the neck or back. Headaches may also become more frequent. In our attempt to cope with stress, sometimes we resort to unhealthy ways of soothing. This may include using drugs, alcohol, food, or pornography. Some of these warning signs taken together may indicate problems with stress. Now it is time to take stock of your stress level. Before you began the presentation, you completed the Life Stress Questionnaire. If you haven't already done so, please add up your points for the items you selected and write the total score at the bottom of the page. If you scored 300 and above, you have highly significant life stress. 2 to 300 indicates significant life stress. 150 to 200 indicates moderate stress, and 150 and below indicates low life stress. Now take a few moments to consider your results. What stood out to you about your results? Do you agree with your results? Why or why not? What type of stress is most prevalent in your life right now? What are you doing to address it? How do you think your stress relates to your level of anger? It might be helpful at this point to pause this recording now and briefly jot down your answers to these questions. Stress that is unchecked and lasts for a long period of time can lead to a variety of health-related illnesses, including heart problems, high blood pressure, anxiety disorders, and depressive disorders. The bottom line is, you must learn how to decrease your anger for your physical and emotional health. Learning to cope with stress often starts with learning how to communicate. Those who anger easily tend to make quick decisions and then act on those decisions without considering the consequences. When dealing with an upsetting situation, slow down your thoughts. Hear what the other person is saying. Take your time in responding or walk away and think about it. Also, don't overwhelm yourself. Take the time to organize and prioritize things you must do first. Above all, keep it simple. Finally, develop a plan for having fun. Having fun should be a part of the plan of attack for your stress level. Find those things you like to do, build it into your schedule, and do it frequently. The third approach to dealing with anger is knowing your triggers. Anger triggers are those things that push your buttons and make it difficult for you to step back and see the situation realistically. Anger triggers can be a number of different things. For example, it can be the words people say to you, the gestures they use while talking to you, or even the sound of their voices. A trigger can be something that reminds you of the past. For example, if you were verbally abused in your childhood, this may trigger an angry response from you. Anger triggers are different for every person. However, some common anger triggers include injustice, disrespect, physical threats, relationship arguments, lack of control, and insults. An example of a series of events that causes an anger trigger might be when someone jumps in line at the grocery store. You think this is disrespectful. You say, "jerk," under your breath. You feel disrespected and anxious. You have sweaty hands and an upset stomach. The aggression cycle is one way of thinking about an episode of anger. The aggression cycle consists of 3 phases. The escalation phase. This is when cues appear that warn you that your anger is growing. During the escalation phase, you will be more likely to deny that you have a problem, think unrealistically about the situation that makes you angry, have distorted thoughts, and ignore your angry triggers. If anger cues are not addressed, then the explosion phase occurs and an uncontrollable release of rage happens. This might include both verbal and physical attacks on others. The post-explosion phase happens later and is where negative consequences that result from the explosion are experienced. These consequences may include going to jail or relationship problems. In order to stop an angry episode, you must learn how to avoid the explosion phase. This is easier said than done. One approach is by learning to recognize your triggers. If you are aware of your triggers, then you will be able to anticipate potential angry situations. Learn to recognize what you think about these situations. This will help you to notice the things that trigger it and also to take action to prevent the explosion phase of the aggression cycle. Now, take a moment and think about your last angry episode. What was the trigger? Something someone said or did? How they said something to you? Something that reminded you of an experience from the past? Take action by slowing yourself down during angry situations. Do not react quickly. Take time to think about it and decide what you want to say or do. Recognize unrealistic thoughts. Keep yourself in check by disrupting those unrealistic thoughts. The course handout will talk more about how to recognize and dispute these thoughts. The fourth approach to dealing with anger is to take action and create a plan for change. Taking action means knowing what to do ahead of time. Plan for how you address your anger. Remember, it is important to avoid the explosion stage of the aggression cycle. Waiting until you are in an argument is too late. Realize that changing any behavior will take time. This is normal. Don't beat yourself up for setbacks that might occur. Adjust your plan and try it again. You can take action by learning more about your thoughts, about your triggers, about your goals, and your resources. The Controlling the Anger Inside You self-help handout will start you on the path of taking action to control your anger. It includes more information about how people think, common unrealistic thoughts, and a worksheet to begin writing down how you will approach an anger management plan. You have finished this audio presentation. Now, please take the time to complete the Controlling the Anger Inside You self-help handout.